A lot of topics on the table today, but we are very honored to be joined by Ron MacLean today for his third appearance on the program today as we head out to Southern Ontario. Game day, Leafs Oilers tonight. It's got a real Stanley Cup playoff feel to me, Ron. How about you?
Totally. In fact, Rod, this feels a bit like the Olympics. I put my television on, and every night feels like Hockey Night in Canada. We used to get the all-Canadian matchups on a Saturday, and now they're consistent. I just leave the TV on the station like I would with a rights holder at the Olympic Games, and obviously 4-10 for the Oilers and the Leafs, so fantastic.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you get up in the morning and turn the channel on and go, oh, yeah, that was on from last night. That's happening in my house every day, Ron. And I got a ton of things to get to with you, but that triggered my thinking on a question we were discussing the other day. Keeping the Scotia North Division past this year. There's getting to be a groundswell of support with it. Where are you on that?
Totally, as long as you could sprinkle in at least one game with every other team. I don't know if that's possible, but that would be my only amendment because I think it's fantastic. We're blessed, as you know, Rod, to have McDavid and Matthews, and every Canadian team has a superstar or two. Normally in the past, you'd say, oh, my God, you're kidding. I'm not going to see Yager. I'm not going to see Mario Lemieux or Sidney Crosby. But as fate would have it, we don't really feel jilted by not getting the American team's visit. I still think it would be nice, though, to cross-pollinate just a little bit. But the idea of 6 or 7 against each other, fantastic.
Yeah, if they can, you're right, go, what do you call it, cross-divisional play. But my argument against that, Ron, was the travel. And you're no stranger to travel in normal times. Like, I just thought it might wear out the players with the time zones. We're a big country. But people are saying we could work around that. Is that a thing, do you think?
Right. You would probably need to have a situation like we have now where you see 2 and 2 nights or 3 nights of a Canadian team visiting Edmonton, Montreal as an example. That was fantastic, right? To see what happened with Darnell Nurse catches Brendan Gallagher in game 1 with a bit of I'm not saying dirty, but a hit that was severe, and Gallagher comes back with a hit that I'm not saying is dirty, but it was from behind in game number 2, and that creates obviously a little bit of a narrative that we all enjoy.
Can you please tell the viewers across the country and our American viewers too, because we're on in 31 states, what Toronto would be like right now today, pandemic aside, with McDavid at Matthews, Oilers, Leafs? What would it be like in downtown Toronto right now?
Well, there's no question when Connor waltzed Morgan Riley last year and then threw his number 1 in the air, there's a great rivalry, whether they say it or not. And they're friends. They train together a fair bit of the time, Matthews and McDavid. But Connor has that blistering speed, which he feels that all the great ones, Bobby Orr, had that blistering speed. Gretzky was more of an agile skater, not necessarily blistering speed, but he loves his speed as a dimension to his place on the mantle. And Matthews is equally impressive in terms of his footwork. I've often told the story. He grew up training with Russ Courtnall's family. Lawson, his son, was a dear friend. Russ's son was a dear friend of Austin Matthews. So every summer, Austin went up to Victoria and they would run the rocks. The Courtnall boys felt that training on the seaside and all these rocks would give you strength in the tendons and the muscles of your feet. And he's amazing in that regard. He barely ties his skates. So the loosest tie job of any skater, and you know Crosby and how finicky he is with his. And so they're back and forth. Matthews and McDavid and Crosby and all the greats looking at the other and saying, what does he do? As an example, McDavid trained to learn to one-time a puck from Steven Stamkos, with whom he trains. And he just worked endlessly on that. And he also worked on stopping up. McDavid used to, stick handle right into the phone booth. Now he has that, as you saw in one of his goals earlier on there against the Canucks, just that checkup and change the point of attack. And so they're learning. They're fascinated with the game and its mechanics. And it's a joy to watch those two in particular.
No kidding. And whatever the Courtnalls were doing for training worked, obviously. Craig Campbell from the Hockey Hall of Fame's watching in Toronto. He says the KHL schedule contends with 10 time zones. Well, we're not in a competition here, Craig. I thought we were serious about player safety. That's all. I just want to take care of the players. Brian Kozak in Winnipeg says, I don't at all like what Hockey Night in Canada is doing to the Jets. 6 times this season, they're playing Saturday home games at 9 p.m. I would say, Brian, we'll put that in the suggestion box. There's a lock on it. We'll send it to Sportsnet. Do you have a take on that?
Well, as you know, there's no Rogers hometown hockey, Ryan, because of the schedule. We just couldn't. Obviously, traveling would have been impossible anyway, but we could have hosted it from Toronto had we been able to get Sunday games. But we couldn't even. The Jets used to be our stable. We would have 7 Sunday nights with the Winnipeg Jets. Not happening. So this is just a non-perfect season. It's cost us Rogers hometown hockey. Not just that. Obviously, the pandemic's a huge factor, but the schedule was a massive factor in why we couldn't have the Sunday night show. And you're going to endure a little bit of inconvenience, and I hate that you have to. But I just think, at the end of the day, 9 o'clock, that's prime time in America. That's when they put the games on most of the time. So it's not the worst. And I'm grateful that it helps us because it's nice to have the Jets as the nightcap.
Good point. Slightly off script from what I was going to talk to you about. We were mentioning earlier that Sidney Crosby scores the winner in overtime for Pittsburgh last night. Opening night, he scores with one hand. You saw the fishing goal that he had. And I love it, Ron, because he's saying, I'm not going away. You referenced Gretzky and Orr. You know that they face some hate the longer their careers went along because people get tired of the winner. Tom Brady deals with that, right? And they didn't do anything wrong. And I just like that Sidney's sitting there going, I'm not going away, guys. You can take your McKinnon and your McDavid. That's what I see.
Well, Rod, I'll tell you, the thing about Crosby, though, is he's never really offended anybody. He's just sweet as apple pie, right? So I don't think he's one of those guys. Like, I don't know why Bobby, maybe because he fought with Pat Quinn. I don't know, maybe because he blocked shots or he was involved in the physicality more so. It's not like Crosby's a wallflower, but his thing is puck protection. It was great joy to listen to Peyton Krebs at the World Juniors talk about how he has 105 superstitions in warm-up because of Sid. He has, puck protection techniques based on Sidney Crosby. The kids all watch video endlessly. This guy is loved and admired and respected. You don't see anybody taking cheap shots at Sidney Crosby per se, although maybe Niskanen. I'll tell you, Rod, I'll maybe show it this Saturday on Hockey Night in Canada, but I watched Jake Allen get steamrolled the other night, and I watched Koskinen get hit and sent head flying by his own man, mind you. It's a tough spot. And I remember Johnny Bower. You remember the famous photo of Johnny after the Leafs won the Cup and Gordie Howe poses with him and Frank Selke Jr.? But going back to 1960, I'll try and show this, but there's a play where Jean Beliveau's taking a shot on Johnny Bower, who's not wearing a mask. It's the 1960 Stanley Cup. It's back when our all-Canadian rivalries were the one and only Montreal versus Toronto, and they play 14 times. So Bower's in net. Beliveau takes the shot, and boom, boom, Jeffrey on number 5 of the Habs drives the net, sends Johnny flying into the air. What does Johnny do? He doesn't get up and poleaxe Jeffrey on. He helps him to extricate his skate, which got caught up in the mesh. Unbelievable sportsmanship. And Bauer, I liken to Crosby. He's just one of those guys that's always done it with a great element of sportsmanship, high compete level, but not the kind you would ever hate. And nobody hated Johnny Bauer, and I don't think anybody hates Sid.
No, but there. By the way, a bronze statue of Johnny Bower in the lobby of the Art Hauser Center. So there's that. And But you still do hear some hate for Sid. I do. Maybe you don't. I don't think Wayne Gretzky ever did anything wrong to offend anybody either, Ron, other than make him look bad. Yeah,
well, Scotty Bowman said a boo in the enemy rink is a cheer, right? You do understand. You invite. It's like when I refereed. Half the people liked the call, half the people hated the call, and I've been in those shoes pretty much all my life. No, I Crosby. What I think is neat when he was on with Spit and Chicklets, right, and he revealed that at 32 he felt like it was really a struggle to keep pace, and he was having to do extra work in order to be able to stay at the level you need to be. And when you see some of these veteran players like Crosby, I was amazed at, I didn't realize how great Kevin BX has told me time immemorial because he was a partner. But this Chris Tanev going over to Calgary has made a difference. He has really shored up that blue line. And those older players that, do the training, like Chara playing with Washington at his age, is Joe Thornton giving it a shot with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, this is impressive stuff. And Sid, in that lens, he's only 34.
Do you have a story of being around Sidney? You must. I know you do all those events in Nova Scotia, like as a person, because he does seem pretty guarded.
Yeah,
what's he like away?
Yeah. One. The first time I met him was at the Brad Richards golf tournament in Prince Edward Island. We were playing at two tracks called Brudenell and Dunderave. So Maritimers would know this golf course really well. And I remember, like always at a charity event, there's lots of shenanigans the night before the actual golf tournament. So I was up till all hours at a place called the St. James Gate in Charlottetown, and we take the bus out to the golf course. And I had packed my bag full of stuffed animals for the children because they come and caddy. And I remember I got off the bus feeling a little jagged from the night before, and I have all these children who are going to be caddies in our golf tournament, and I'm presenting them with little hockey stuffed animals and signing autographs and posing for photos for the kids. And there on the veranda is Sidney Crosby. He's just, he hasn't even played in the NHL yet, and he's just watching me and other players, and he wasn't out drinking, and he was in the gym. The next morning, I saw him in the fitness center, just dialed in to every element of the career that he was about to embark on. So that's one. And the other is, the relationship with his father, Troy, and Trina, his mom, and his uncle, Robbie, who was a driving force at Tim Hortons. But Robbie tore up he played for the Corner Brook Royals in the Newfoundland Senior Hockey Loop. Was a phenomenal player. So that all the Crosbys, I could say Forbes McPherson, who runs the UPEI, it's a hockey family through and through. So generations all over the place of greatness. But to see when Grapes and I were in Nashville doing the 2016 Cup, Pittsburgh and Nashville, and to see Trina and Troy coming back from the Bridgestone Arena, discussing the game in detail, things that they had shared with Sidney, telling Don and me, sort of how they never missed a skate. Not one morning skate, not one off-day practice. The family was in it together. And that's one of the things, it's hard for people. I think they think, oh my God, can't he get rid of his parents? No, that's a guy that was drafted the same year as Patrick Roy by the Montreal Canadiens. That's, Carey Price and his father, Jerry, same tight. That's a lovely element that I think has really been the cornerstone of Crosby's success.
Well, and speaking of shenanigans, just before the pandemic, I did a dinner with Matthew Barnaby and Andre Waugh in Carlisle. And you know how those dinners go. Carlisle, Saskatchewan. And they told some stories from the Penguins days. And it was literally, Ron, we put Sidney to bed with his milk and cookies. And then this is where the story starts, right? He was never part of any of that stuff. So anyway, so a guy I saw on Twitter, a fan this morning said he's not enjoying the NHL hockey because it's not intense, it's not physical. And compared to the Stanley Cup playoffs, it wouldn't be. But he said, this is like watching an all-star game every night. And I thought, he's not wrong. Where are you on what we've seen? Yeah, he's not wrong.
I think, Rod, a couple of things. From a feel, it does feel like you're seeing an inter-squad game because of the no fans. And whereas the bubbles for the Stanley Cup playoffs, Steve Mayer of the National Hockey League had come in and the bells and whistles and special effects were fantastic. We still have a little bit of crowd noise, but it isn't quite as good as it was in the bubble because it was one guy, Jeff Cozen in Edmonton at Rogers Place. And Jeff would sit there and he would watch the shot from the point and he would have hits the post, hits the crossbar, ready to go. And within a millisecond of that shot off the crossbar, he was sweetening the sound to the extent that we believed what we were seeing and hearing. That's different because of the setup. And then no preseason, I think, accounts for a little bit of it as well. Like a guy, I give Darren Drager a lot of credit last night. Josh Morris, he was having a really tough game in Ottawa. And Drager said, look, he hasn't had a preseason game. This is their second game. He'll find his stride. And sure enough, he scores the tying goal and sets up the winner. That's happening too. You got a lot of guys that are fumbling with the puck. TJ Brody comes over into Toronto. Huge pressure, right, to play on the defense in Toronto. And he's struggling because he's not got the reps. So I think the animosity will build, the familiarity will breed contempt. I think the hitting will pick up a little bit. I think you have to recognize that it's just all feeling a little weird and a little new to the players at this point.
No doubt. And a hello from Janice Correa. She says, hello, Ron and Rod from Vancouver. She's with our sales force living out there. And Ron, lastly, I say we're in the Bermuda Triangle of the NHL. We're right in the middle of Winnipeg, Calgary, and Edmonton. We're in the TV region of all of them, so we get all those games. So last night, Sarah Orlesky, who I refer to as the GOAT of female hosts, if I may. There might have been some before her, but she's just so classy. And she goes, I still can't get used to the empty arena. Right. She was throwing it back to
that.
You saw, and I thought, Sarah,
for the third period.
Did you nail that? It almost brings a tear to my eye because we're not used to it. And I don't want to get used to it, Ron.
Well, but we have to. We just have to, of all the places, in Regina, the Cooperators was created by farmers because of the droughts and because of the infestations and because of the disease and how many different ways you could be brought to the brink. But you loved the life. So you endured as a farmer, the fact that you might lose it all at any given moment. That's where we're at. I hate to say it, and I hate to be glib about it, but it's we'll take what we get to just sort of get through this. And you still see on occasion, like Jake Allen, right? The other night, frick, unbelievable. And as I said, Tanev has caught my eye. Drake Batherson with the Ottawa Senators, and to see the way he's playing right now, there's a lot of legitimacy within what is unfortunate. But let's just say, in the spirit of Saskatchewan, the spirit of Johnny Bauer, we'll put up with it, and hopefully, knock on wood, come October, it'll be. By the way, one last thing, Rod, because the inauguration, I was just watching it today. Kathleen Edwards, this is a funny Saskatchewan Rough Rider story. She's singing the anthem in Atlanta at the All-Star in 2008, Phillips Arena. And I hadn't been back there since the Olympics in '96. It was cool to walk around and think about where Donovan Bailey and the relay, all this stuff. So I'm there for the Canadian anthems about to be performed by Kathleen Edwards, who comes out in her Ottawa Senator sweater. And a guy from the NHL says, "You can't wear that sweater. This is a celebration of all 30 of our partners, and we can't be, showing favoritism." So she goes back into the dressing room, and she comes out wearing a Saskatchewan Rough Riders T-shirt. And the guy didn't know what that was. He just thought it was a wheat sheaf. So he just let her go. And crazy. One of the funniest. If you ever get a chance, watch
that bind. Yeah. And I think, you say, we'll make the best of it. That's
right.
Exactly. Ron, I always enjoy our visits. Thanks for prying yourself away from the inauguration. We'll turn you back to President Biden, and we'll see you when we see you.
I don't know what to watch.
I know, exactly. All right. Thanks, Ron. Ron MacLean joining us from Southern Ontario today with a great visit.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.